Friday, exciting day. We've been waiting for this for a minute, but I'm Derrick Day, and my man in the middle is,
I'm Aaron Tomlinson.
and our special guest on the other side here. I'm going to let this brother introduce himself. Shawn, go ahead and tell us who you are.
This is Shawn Rivera, formerly of the group As Yet. And first of all, I'm on the show. And I'm going to make a disclaimer because a lot of my fans may be ready for this. But the opinions I express are not necessarily those of As Yet. So Derrick or Adam, feel free to disagree. Doesn't mean we still can't be friends. I just wanted to address something really quick. On the ad for it says correctly that I am it says founder of ad, unless a person decides to take out an ad in a newspaper to form a group. It usually, so I would be remiss without giving a shout out to Dion Allen, because both of us, we decided together to start our own group. So that makes both of us founders. I want to leave him out.
Okay.
Unintentionally.
And you know, I was going to talk about Dion because you are the co-founder, but you're the guest, so that's why I framed it the way I did.
It wasn't disingenuous. It's just again like there might be 20 producers on a movie. They all get to say they produced on the movie, but you know,
right?
Yeah. So me and Dion
let
is
me
accurate.
Real quick, I just want everybody to know that Shawn, like he mentioned, that he's the co-founder of As Yet, which is a multi-platinum selling record R&B group from the late 90s, early 2000s. And Shawn is a musician and a producer, and he's continuing to do work, continuing to make an impact on the business. But what I noticed when I got connected with him on Instagram was that this is a cat that he's not just music. He's not a one-trick pony. He's very multidimensional, very intelligent, very articulate, and he delves into a lot of different areas. So I wanted to start by, first of all, asking everyone what's in the glass, because we drink here.
Okay. Yes, I was prepared. I'm not a heavy drinker these days, but might allow me to have one of these lovely. Yes, there's some highbrow stuff.
So is that like
we're about
to find out?
Yes, it's some sort of a Town, New York brewery. So yes, it's a small batch microbrew farmhouse with spices. Okay, we're keeping it spicy.
Okay,
all right.
Aaron, how about you, man? What do you got?
I got a Merlot. I'm on break, man. I'm on vacation, so I'm at a resort hotel.
Oh, awesome!
Little bottle of Merlot, so that's what I'm drinking.
Well, if things get really wild, oh, there you go.
Hey,
I've got some Ciroc VS.
Well, if things get really crazy, I have that. My brother gave me this. It says, "I am my brother's keeper." Shout out to
nice.
Clay. Yes, it's a hand engraved. Yes, for emergencies only. I don't know if we'll get to all of that, but you know.
Well, I don't know, man. You might, because it gets kind of wild here. But one of the things I want to start off with, right, in founding a group, a singing group, a band that basically bursts on the scene. You're produced by Babyface. You've got your collaborators list on your opening album is like a who's who of music royalty, right? So how does somebody like, and I'm looking at you, I'm like, you're like a kid from the streets of Philly, right? And how is it that you're able to take this vision that you had, you and Dion, and transform this into something so real, relevant, and transformative? Because you guys, man, your harmonies and everything, that was like an aspirational goal of a lot of R&B groups. So tell us about that. Let's start with that.
All right. Well, first of all, the state of the music industry at the time, especially in Philadelphia, we came up, we started in 1986 years before we got our record deal. We were the contemporaries of other local artists like Boyz II Men, undercurrents of local groups. We would go to street corners and sing, battle each other, it was like really serious. And then we would write all of our songs to producers to put music behind it. We rehearsed every day. We performed shows in the tri-state area. We were pretty much known of in our little, and I would give, who wouldn't give Babyface the credit for our first single, Last Night, which was on the Nutty Professor soundtrack. It went, we toured 40 countries. We also got a Grammy nomination for our second single, which was that I produced and arranged with David Foster and Babyface, called Hard to Say I'm Sorry. And that, because Last Night was a great song, and it was pretty raunchy even by today's standards, some of the lyrics, but, you know, but to answer your question, I mean, we got signed because that we put together. All of us sang lead. That's the other thing, because there's other guys that could sing circles around me, and that was the thing that we wanted to put forward, was, you know, not, you know, marking the Marquettes or whatever. No offense to those kind of groups where they have just one guy, but well balanced, and it was always about the harmony. Like, we were influenced by well, all the Manhattan Transfers, all these older groups that had really good. So I think the harmony, like you said, the harmony was the thing that no matter what we sang, we flavor. And nobody's really doing 5-part harmony as much anymore, I'll say.
No.
You know, maybe, you know, artists like that, you know, there's some great groups out now that are bringing it to. Maybe they'll call me for some help.
Well, you know, here's the thing, like, music is interesting, because I think that music, people come from a place of passion or a place of pain in bringing their musical gifts to bear. So how did that work out? Like, well, let me ask you another question to piggyback on that. Did you have like a church connection? Were you one of those church?
Oh, here we go. Okay. So yes, and with the music, more so than with the church. And I just for the viewers on, and those who'll see this later, part of the reason why I agreed to do this interview was because in the request, it mentioned talking about the spiritual journey and music. So, you know, I was raised, quote unquote, Catholic, never baptized, but I went to but I also went to Friday night Bible studies, which was Protestant, and then I sang. Music was primarily, you know, Baptist, Southern soul. So I always loved the music, but I wasn't really sold on the message. The convinced by the claims, since I found out there was no Santa Claus, applied that same logic going forward. And I wound up being a heretic in the asked too many questions. I was a straight A student, never absent, never late. And one day I raised my, excuse me, but here in Acts 4:12, it says there's no other name given among men under heaven. And if you're telling me about purgatory, isn't that under heaven? And it's given among men? And they pulled me down to the office by my ear, and the vice principal, straight A student, the principal smacked me on the top of the head and said, "Your kind doesn't belong here." So they made me sit in the back when everyone was doing the sacraments. And, you know, I was, I guess, a natural born, never really stuck with me. But I love gospel music. I've actually got a chance to work with Kirk Franklin in so many different gospel choirs. And I still listen to gospel music because it's some of the most compelling, which all other styles in today's modern music have some influence. So, I mean, there's no need to throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yes, there was a church connection, but like I said, it was more about the music per se. You know, I was never really indoctrinated, really stuck.
So let me ask you this: when you were singing, let me say, when you were coming up, and at what point did you know that that something was going to happen? That there was this lightning in a bottle, How did you know that? And what did you do once you understood that you have something special?
You know what? This is great. I was in gospel choir at Central High School. I was 15 going on 16. I didn't join the gospel choir because I thought I could sing. I actually had public speaking. Like I, didn't like to read in front of the class. And I grew up in a really horrific every day type of neighborhood. And I'm like, why am I not afraid to walk home, but I'm afraid to read in front of the class, I'm afraid of anything. So I took it upon myself to join gospel choir because I like to be high, but still be in front of people. Maybe it'll help me with this fear of mine. And a couple of weeks solo, and I'm like, no, all right, well, if you think I'm good enough, I'll try it. And then as I'm singing, a man named Ali Hyman, shout out to Ali Hyman, who was a student next door at LaSalle, and he happened to hear me. LaSalle University, he was done, and he was listening to the choir. He was looking to recruit people for a group. I was recruited to sing in this group because of gospel choir, which was totally a fluke. I'd be like, I don't know, a lawyer or anything but music. Music was late for me. I wasn't one of them like that. I took piano lessons and I could hear things, but I was way too shy. So lightning in a bottle, to answer your question. We knew within the first year, we thought we were going to have a record deal, like Red Blend, and we were getting chills, and the response was there, and like we just had seemed to have. So we knew it right away, but then sometimes talent. Well, so as we got closer to the deal, and more things started happening internally. Actually left the group and took a scholarship at University of the Arts, which was one of the best decisions I ever made. Eventually rejoin after getting a full scholarship. But it let me know that with or without the group. And I think that, that's not throwing any shade on a member of any group, team, or organization should have enough confidence in themselves, weakest link. So what I learned in school only helped to enhance what group or to any other situation. And coming from a family of 5 and then being a group of working with, well, it's 5-piece band. Like, it doesn't matter if there's singers, everyone can be an instrument and harmonize things. But I don't know. I could go on.
I want to kick it over to Aaron because Aaron has a little bit of a musical background too. So I want to kind of pick his brain and get him to throw something your way here.
Yeah, my musical background, Shawn, is marching band in high school.
Oh yeah. I used to do the drill team, American Legion. Like I had a big kick drum like this and a snare on the side, and we were playing while you're walking, and then the girls had the tassels with the boots, and they would do all the steps. Here's a tip. Our teams are top. I have a thing for drum lines and all of that. Yeah. Awesome.
So I'm curious about your life outside of music, your interest in social issues. Do you have any interest in spirituality? I mean, I think that's so cool. I think that's so funny what you asked at the school about purgatory being under.
Well, here's the thing, right? Away from the word spirituality, because although it has a dictionary meaning, it's also so easy to confuse things. And I know of you, I may have gone a step beyond being a religious person, but I don't consider myself a spiritual person in the traditional use of the word.
Right.
Meaning I don't believe in souls or afterlife or astrology or Nuwabu or the Bible, any like specific kind of creator. I'm not going to claim that there is no creator or there isn't. We can go down that rabbit hole as this, right?
Sure.
We as a species have agreed upon concrete evidence of a specific of any deity, and there's so many different takes on it that, for me, I have yet to be convinced by any of the claim time to examine.
Mhm.
And that being said, right, ask questions like, well, if you don't believe in God, then how did everything get here? But I'm not going to pretend to know either.
Right.
And also, it begs the question: if everything has a creator, then why doesn't the creator have a creator? And if the creator, then it's just as easy to say that the universe, in some form or another, what's the difference? And either way, in my life, I don't to external dogma for a sense of morality. Person, I do see that there are some, whether you want to call them crutches, or it's the things that people find enticing about religion and spirituality, unity or altruism. All of those things are not necessarily to one religion or any religion per se. But again, I'm open to suggestions, and when people have asked me what would it take to convince me, Dillahunty's book. I don't know if you are familiar with Matt Dillahunty. He's a hosts Atheist Experience. If you've ever seen that show, he says, I don't know what it would take to convince me, but so I can't say that I wouldn't be convinced in the future. I'm going to treat this life like it's the only one I have, and bring as much because it makes me feel good, not because I'm hoping for some great afterlife, or if you come to find out things are different when you die, I'll cry. But I'm pretty sure, unless otherwise specified, that it's going to be just like before I was born. Consciousness, nothing. When the brain dies, that's it. But that's just me personally. Feel this week.
Yeah. So just follow-up question to that, Shawn, because I'm curious, because I don't know how much you know about Derrick and I, but we were both former pastors, and I was really into it.
Yeah.
And then came out of it. And one of the arguments that, or one of the ideas, I don't know if it's necessarily an argument, one of the ideas out there amongst the staunchly religious is that you need some kind of moral compass. You need something to guide your life outside of yourself. And so what have you found that guides your life? Like,
okay, here's the thing, right? Morality, we know it to be, has always been an instinctual societal movement before Christianity. There are other religions that are preferred around the world. There is an instinct to be altruistic for the benefit of society. It's how we evolve, work together for a common good, because whether it's for hunting or anything else, when it's like wait a minute, if hunt down this antelope, then we can share it, whereas I couldn't catch it by myself. I mean, it's to the quote unquote golden rule and all these things outside myself. Now, a lot of people find it frightening, because they're like, oh, well, what's to stop all these things? Well,
yeah,
if that is your innate nature, no religion or spirituality is going to change that. I mean, the prisons are full of Charles Manson used to play in his leadership worship.
Church, yeah.
So I look to the highest good for the greatest benefit of the most the most people, and that's just being honest. I mean, I don't really look some useful information or tenets to be found in all of the they had to get their morality from somewhere to get it. The books are the claim, not the evidence. So when you look at the time, their morals reflect those times. And now people cherry pick. I mean, you kind of have to be a a fundamentalist, then you're not supposed to cherry pick. It's the handwritten word of God. So that means misogyny and, you know, all the other bigotries and things that come along with it. You can't just say, oh, well, but we still hate gays, or, you know, women shouldn't have reproductive rights. I mean, like, if you're going to do that, you might as well just, you know, you can do that with everyone does it, whether they know it or not. They decide what works for them. I'm doing the same thing, not leaning on the dogma for any sort of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've seen you do, and this is what really endeared me to you and impressed me about you, was that you know, things like you know, Roe v. Wade and that decision, and Black Lives Matter, and the aftermath of George Floyd's death, and all that. It's like you immediately had a very concise and very measured response, but it was deeply passionate. And so let me ask you this: when in the music industry, or how is that received? Like, you know, when you find something that you're deeply passionate about, and you find you know your voice and you use your voice, but you know you have to consider the consequences of that. What is that like? How is that, you know, how does that shape your life?
You know, when I was younger, right, when we first got few coaches and they said avoid certain topics, you don't want to, you know, wade in to those kind of words. Before there was cancel culture, that we were still getting these kind of warnings. Now, you know what? Most of the internet is an echo chamber. People spout what they think their followers want to hear, or they're only being followed because you represent their values. But I guess growing up being an oddball, I've kind of looked at it like I'm taking a survey of how other people will respond. Feel, you know, maybe you can talk me off the ledge or change my mind. Like, I'm trying to stay, you know, they say a closed mouth never gets fed, neither does a closed mind. So I just try to injustice. It does bother me, you know, like it just does. It doesn't matter where lots of associates, I'll say, they're not real friends, but like, you know, for instance, when the Ukraine happened, you know, a lot of folks in my circle would say, well, that's not our problem. I would point to MLK, where, you know, injustice anywhere, you know, is anywhere should be a concern. I'm sure he said it better than I did, but what I'm trying to say is that you don't realize how connected we are until this stuff spills out into your doorstep. Like, you know, people thought, oh, that Germany and there, you know, and it's the complacency that kind of allowed things to far, or you sweep it under the rug, or you think, oh, this is not my problem, or they don't look like me, so I shouldn't care about all the bad stuff I see on the news. They look at these isolated incidents and say, yes, well, they were treating like crap, but is the whole country and those kids ever getting bombed? Were they single-handedly deserve the whole concept of deserving the suffering because of someone else's behavior? The whole problems I have with the religiosity. It's like there's this whole thing. Karma only seems to apply, you know, when it's good for you and bad for them. The wicked get away with everything all the time, and you know, people born without limbs, or, you know, childhood cancer. Oh, I guess they deserved it. God wanted them back. Why did he bring them here to suffer? I can go on, but it's just,
yeah.
I can't help it. And like, I don't consider, you know, some kind of a left-wing radical activist or anything crazy. Radical activists are crazy. I'm just saying that for me, what limited perspective I have from where I stand, and, you know, everyone was at disagreements and still like move forward. That's really what we need more of. We don't need progressives or more Republicans or more billionaires or more, like everyone's voice at least proportionally represented? Can we get there first? I don't want to give, move out of the way to let others' voices be the things they're going through. And if I could point someone in the right direction, great. I'm not, people, which is okay too, but at least keep the dialogue open instead of shutting down and canceling. Although I'll take that back. Some people deserve to be canceled, meaning held to a higher standard because of what it is that you espouse and what you fall short of that. That makes you human, but it also disqualifies you, being the face of said movement. Like how we find out all the quote unquote, let's say the anti-gay congressman caught. It's like, okay, you're out here saying one thing and doing another. Hypocrisy should never be tolerated, even ever. Doesn't mean, people love a good comeback story. But I think it just depends on navigate. Like, I've made so many mistakes that I'm willing to own the differences. Wouldn't it be great if instead of saying, oh, we're not speaking to those people anymore, or they're not, that they're given an opportunity to make amends just like any other person who, crimes against humanity. But there's certain things you should be locked up for, you should be put away for. Like, there's got somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll shut up now.
No, man, it's good stuff.
Yeah. So I got another question for you, and this one is always, people, the whole shut up and dribble thing, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like, you look at people, they say, well, if you're a singer, sing. If you're an actor, act. If you're an athlete, play. And don't do anything to rock the boat. But I look at people like Muhammad Ali and Jim Brown and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Kurt Flood and all these people, that they use their platform for something more than just their platform. And so
yes.
What I wanted to do is I want to kind of pick your brain as someone who's been to that mountaintop and has had that voice. Do you feel that when people have a platform that they're responsible to, they have a responsibility to share that platform for a bigger purpose, or how far do you think that should go?
You know what? There's first of all, I'll say that most of the time, when dribble, it's because the way it is using their platform is disagreeable to the person who wants them to shut up. Number two is that those same people will claim responsibility to agree with them. When it comes to individual chooses to use their platform, I think a lot of young artists, entertainers, they start out not wanting to make waves because they want to make it big. And then they get to a certain level where they see who they really are. 9 times out of 10, you go, oh, all this time I didn't know you were pro-life, or, whatever it might be. Once that word hits or that one buzzkill hits, people are so quick to abandon. Now, like I said, there's some lines that need to be drawn. Like, this may offend some people. I can't listen to R. Kelly anymore. I don't care how great his run was. Like, I'm not able. I can separate the music from the music without thinking of the artist. And I saw the original video. It was Shane Nameless, who was a producer that worked with him. I saw the original video, like 20. So, it's one of those cases where it's like clear cut and dry. They're not trying to bring down to it where you can say, oh, the family was complicit and they didn't speak up and they were taking money and blah, blah, blah. Doesn't make it right. I just can't. But I'm saying all that to say that, like, I think it's if you choose to just stay in your lane, stay neutral, maybe I should take my own advice, right? And just make it's okay. Especially when you're not informed about a topic, like any sentence that starts out, I don't know, that where you're talking about like Hitler and, Jewish people, it usually doesn't end well. A lot of people don't take their time to educate themselves before they speak up about current events. Problematic, but not irreparable. It's another thing when, whether you like it or not, are a role model, because your followers and your following, and of course, when you come into the game, you don't really see the connections between complex and the music that's designed to drive the youth toward it by glamorizing no lifestyles or these sorts of things. And people say, hey, we got to eat. I mean, there's more than one way to eat. You have your own kids. You might start looking at things differently. And I'm all about transformations. Like, because you don't get it this week, then I'm not speaking to you ever again. Like for those exceptional people who have more the music their platform, that to me is the ultimate, because music has, what do you want to call it, spiritual effects or mental effects or whatever. The FBI investigates more musicians than they do but you can play a gangster in a movie and nobody thinks you're a gangster in real life. Even in real life, you can play a good guy in a movie and people, they don't hold you to that music is held to. So I feel that's the part that kind of bothers me, where it's like I can't even make or rap or sing about something that people are thinking I'm glam. There's video games and all sorts of other forms of entertainment. It's okay for you to think you're an expert, or nobody thinks that everyone in Call of Duty is a school shooter because they play Call of Duty. The minute you rap about something, see,
great point.
They point you out.
That's a great point.
Hey,
Shawn, you talk about transformation. I'm curious, how do you think success has changed you or affected you, or what have you learned about yourself since you've been so successful? Like, what could you share on that?
Actually, have the rare pleasure, what it's like before, during, and after. I have now for living what others would consider to be a normal life. Because, say, famous or successful, that's all you want. Especially, you're a lot of child stars, they get messed up in the head because they get disillusioned to what reality is, because they didn't fully into adulthood. They lose touch because you're isolated. You never have a moment to yourself. There's someone there. Your life is planned out for you. You can't live like a regular, kind of distance yourself. And for me, the charm when I couldn't just go to the grocery store, go to the corner, or you had to like be camera ready, never travel alone anywhere. Sometimes I just want to go, sometimes I just want to put sliding, a phone number underneath, or somebody talking to you, and next year, God forbid, you're caught like on camera. You have a drink. Oh, you've got a drinking problem. Like, people will write their own narrative about you, and I would never want. Look, sometimes things happen that you don't plan. I don't miss being a target, and is loving who you are and what you do. It's not necessarily how much money you have in the bank, and you're loved by someone. And that's all the success I need these days.
I love that.
Yeah,
love that.
So I want to ask you about something. I'm gonna dig into something that's slightly personal, right?
Oh, here we go.
Malaysia, right? And I know that that's a physical journey, and that there's a wonderful outcome from that. but I sense that there is also a spiritual component to Malaysia. That there's, that there was something transformative of that. And I just kind of want to pick your brain on that. I don't want to get too deep, but at the same time, I'm thinking that there's a story there that I think is going to really help somebody.
Okay. Interestingly enough, I'd been to Malaysia, and then again in 2013, 2012, the group recorded a song that I wrote. KRU, which is a label out there, they had hired us to do my soon-to-be future wife. And when I first met her, it was like an instant thing. Like I said, this woman would be my wife. We'd have kids. Like I saw it all. It was just whoop, So I guess we might call it just fantasizing or mental whatever. Love at first sight. It could just have been how to define that. But I will say this. Living years, it is it's as predominantly Muslim as America. And I found it to be peaceful and clean, well governed. I was just there a couple of months ago. I go back frequently to visit my kids. The Muslim community in America is mainly the terrorists in the extreme, while overlooking our homegrown white nationalist terrorists.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
But I actually found life in many ways. There, you can walk down the street. Nobody carries guns. There's no school shootings. Very little graffiti or homelessness. I mean, everyone has their problem, but I found it to be very refreshing. Like stopping me, the cops aren't pulling me over. I'm not getting profiled and shoved on the ground. And yes, it's happened to me in Los Angeles. Never happened in Malaysia.
Wow.
It's a country. Like I love it. I love every time I go. It's a 19 birthday. You watch about 6 to 8 movies, or like 2 Bollywood movies, and you're good. Take a couple and you're good to go. But yeah, I mean, again, like I wouldn't say it was like a spiritual journey converted to Islam, but it did give me a new found respect for the same way that like of any faith, it's not necessarily what they believe, but how they apply it. So plenty of Muslim friends, as well as you name it. Like if I was talking about Nuabu earlier, and the 5%ers, like I've been all sorts of temples, mosques, synagogues, ashrams. We may disagree on almost everything, but I look at how a person, the least, and how they treat the loved. Shout out to Malaysia. I know there's at least 3 people from Malaysia watching.
I love what you said there. It's not so much about what you believe, but how you apply what you believe. I love that.
Absolutely.
Man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's the thing. I think that people kind of miss that, right? It's like if you believe something, that belief should influence your values, and your values should influence your thinking, and your thinking should influence your words, and so on and so on and so on. And so that's one of the things that so I want to talk about real quick about childhood, because like I think that you and I are kind of similar in that, like I grew up in Detroit, and I grew up in the hood, and I always tell people we weren't just poor, we were just po, right? We couldn't afford OR, all we could afford was PO, right? So we were just po, right?
Exactly.
And so now I look at my life, and I've enjoyed a certain measure of success. I have a great career. I get to do great things like, Aaron and I, what we do on Fridays, being able to talk to you. All of these are great things. And I think about this, and I look at all of my life through the lens of this 9-year-old kid from Northwest Detroit. And everything that I do, everything that I have, everything that I experience today is a fucking miracle compared to what I had as a child. So, let's talk about that for a minute. Like, you're coming up in Philly, right? And I don't know exactly what your upbringing was like, but I know, like, to go from from there, from Philly to the big stage, and basically having the world as your oyster, man, that has to be, there has to be something there that where you're just looking and saying, holy fuck, how did I get here,
You know
kind of
what?
thing.
If you those who know Philly would know my neighborhood changed much in the last 40, 50 years, but it's one of the neighborhoods in Philadelphia. I wasn't joking when I said on the way to I had graffiti on my front door. I lived on top of a train, like the train station. Elevator train would run down my street. I could see it out my window, and I lived on a storefront on top of it. So basically, all the businesses closed at 5, and it was, the only people walking around were crackheads. And my father was one of those criminals. So we have friends growing up. I looked at school as a way to escape. It was all about, because that was the only chance to, like, let's say I couldn't play basketball, or straight A student. My mother did a good thing by sending me to Catholic school, because the next best thing to private school, where you didn't have to live in a specific zip code if you paid the tuition. And my mother is blind, by the way. She's always been blind. I've had surgeries on my eyes. I mean, I had a crazy inches in front of my face for like 22 years. I've had ocular implants put in, 4 surgeries on each eye, like throughout my lifetime. I've had radiokeratotomy. I've had what they call, the LASIK too, and then I got replaced because they came out of alignment. But that being said, I feel like there was something in me that was meant for more than. No offense to Frankfurt. I mean, some people never leave the block and they'll die there. And it's all like a classist where I'm like, I'm too good for Frankfurt. No, it was just like, I need to find a home for the thing thrill me. Like, I need to find a way for these things to have an outlet, or to exist, full surroundings, so to speak. So when, like, a lot of people fly out to California to get discovered, we actually got discovered, signed in California. Like, we signed a letter of intent in Philly, and then they flew us out there to finalize it. I soon found that the streets of Los Angeles are not paved with souls. Right? I mean, it's really horrific out there. I mean, and the evidence is, well, let's just put it this way. Ever admired, pretty much, has had, and a lot of it occurred after the success. Like, the micro prints, like, they've all faced these tragic ends. It's the only one that's, one of the few that's still kicking, hasn't done anything outlandish. So that it can't happen. Like, you never hear about Denzel getting in a scandal. Not be completely messed up by the industry. But yeah, it was a culture shock. Once I wanted to leave LA, I wound up living there for 20 years because the work kept coming in, but the cost of, and you wind up wanting to build your resume and going here and going there and keeping up with the Jones sort of thing. My daughter still lives there. Shout out to November. She's my oldest. Field, Michigan. You may know where that is.
What part of Michigan?
That's Southfield.
Oh, Southfield.
Michigan.
Yeah, that's right outside Detroit. Yeah.
Yep. So I've been to Coney Island. Had,
All right. What's up? What's up?
I'm saying though, a few times, and it has its charm. It can, depending on where you're at. But yeah. Answer your question. I mean, think it was kind of a confirmation. It wasn't so much of a shock. It was like, it's about time, you know, and the group really did a lot there. And although they currently, we've heard it here first, I did record something that may get released with them to kind of sit in as a guest artist, which at first I thought they might be, you know, they've got their own corporation, their own business, and I can still get my checks without having to go through them. I'm listed as a separate artist. I have no idea, but it's been recorded. So there may be as yet a quasi reunion of some sort.
That's cool.
Yeah, you know, it is what it is. I've also got another band now from Philly who sing a cappella 5-part harmony, all lingual stuff, and it's freaking awesome. It's totally different. Called Horizon.
Okay.
You know, yeah, we're working on putting something out. We've got a few things floating around the internet, normally known as Viva Mas. And these guys, they've been in a group for like 20 some odd years, like kind of Kenny Terry from our group. He called them the Puerto Rican as yet. So, you know, we'll see. That's a strong music for the love of it nowadays. Like I don't have illusions, grandeur, or anything. It's just like we do what you love, and hopefully it'll impact somebody. So we'll see. Projects. I'm working on the soundtrack. There's a movie called Guillotine. Like we talk about, you know, religiosity, right? A friend of mine, a good friend, is Ray Izadmer. He's producing a series, and 5 parts to it or whatever. It's a beautiful thing, and it's called Guillotine. And it's actually, the guillotine was invented during the, you know, Inquisition and whatnot. So,
wow.
Yeah, I've already done about 5 or 6 songs, and I'm hoping to finish the rest of them this weekend. Not if I keep drinking like this. I'm almost not even halfway done one bottle yet.
So let me ask you this: like last night when you guys did that song was considered risque. You know,
yes.
I remember I was living in Virginia Beach at the time, and you know, all of the preachers and everything, like, you know, like Teddy Riley had set up down there in Virginia Beach, and so a lot of people were hitting Teddy up, and they were like, you know, well, I hope you're not planning on going down that path, you know. Never mind what, you know, what Aaron Hall and company had, you know.
Oh my goodness.
On the back burner.
Mr. Nasty Man.
But here's the thing, like, how when you look at last night, which was risque because there was a lot of tongue in cheek about sexual acts, right? But it's like now it's like people come right out and say what they're going to say. It's like Chris Rock made this great analogy. He talked about how Grace Jones's song "Pull Up to the Bumper," it was a tongue-in-cheek song about anal sex, right? And nobody got it then, but you know, but once you listen to it, you get it, right? And you can't unhear it. But now it's like people just come right out and say, you know, hey, I want to fuck you up the ass kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like there's no filter. And so what do you think about that? Like when you look at music, you know, do you still see wordplay, or do you see like just where it's just all out there?
I hear more wordplay with hip hop than R&B these days. May just be the generations and the times and things changing and all that. But I also think when generation that has been raised on, so scroll through, if it doesn't get your attention in the first 5 seconds, you know, 30 seconds maximum. Before you used to have like long intros, and then people would talk in the beginning and give the whole story, and then the song would start. You need the impact. You got to get them right away. So the patience is one thing, but I also think one of the more underaddressed is the decline. It's kind of hard to communicate using language you don't the as funding is cut and the quality of goes down, the vernacular that we are is what we see around us in the streets. So, like they say, you're only as smart as the next 5 closest people to you. So, I mean, everybody's experience is different, by any stretch for any genre of music. But I will say that like, to be more of an emphasis on language arts. Like in my Central High School, it's kind of like a college prep school. We had philology, we had linguistics and semantics. They don't teach anymore.
Right.
And like what made Babyface such a great writer was the word play. And I do, like I said, I hear it a lot in hip hop, even if the wordplay, are relevant, for their generation, and they're affected and enjoy it, for what it is. Just like I would if I'm watching no, they're not really killing people. They might, they might kill someone after they leave the theater, but not right now. But yeah, and I don't want to just think it's dead. I just think a lot of the sources of music have been diffused. So listen to the radio and make mixtapes, and that was all you got. Now there's, you can search, seek out, find the genres mid-sentence.
Yeah.
So if you more, obscure, like, I don't know, this may not be obscure to use Coyote or Moonchild or Thundercat, or like, certain artists that's core, people who get it and love it, and then the rest of the world that still hasn't heard it yet. So I don't think I'm really I'm one of those. I don't get my hopes up that things are ever going to return to what they used to be. It makes me one of the last of the Mohicans that I can. I'm influenced to the point where anything you hear that I've done in the last 5 years will not sound, but at the same time, I think we owe it to ourselves to a lost art, to be the guardians, not necessarily the gatekeepers, but at least, cherish that aspect of music that's missing because we were there first, usher it in. They've got to be there to keep it alive to some degree. Like I use it as an instrument, as a tool, not a crutch, because a lot of people are purists and they say, "Oh, it's on the song." It might sound good in a background part, or it might sound good because it sounds good, not because the guy can't sing. He needs help. Like I'm not that not that much of a purist when it comes to music. I think whatever's honest to you, sing your truth, speak your truth, and put it out there. And it's the only real music out there.
So what do you think about like democratization of technology, right? That like for example, when you first hit, you had to go into a studio, you had engineers, you had mixers, you had all these professionals around you that were doing their thing to make the sound right. But now you can go on Amazon and you can buy tools, that voice augmentation and sound enhancers and noise reduction, and basically you can, it's just like with podcasting or with YouTube shows. It's like this technology now makes it possible for everybody to get there 15 minutes quicker, And so I wanted to ask you what you thought about that. Excuse me.
I think misleading to say that because people have access to play and have seized the means of production, that does not mean the avenues for distribution and exposure are still controlled by the gatekeepers, whether that gatekeeper be an algorithm or whether or the major labels who still own so much catalog that they leverage it. And so they want to promote. Cash is still king, or credit is still king. You still need money, and there's still some palms that need to be greased. And when they find out, look, just because I recorded this great sounding album, sounds on the radio, how come I'm only getting a couple hundred views or a couple hundred spins? Like not an even playing field. It's a broader playing field with gaps in it that people can. If somebody kind of shifts the paradigm, they close that right behind you, so that they want the exception to prove the rule and say, "Well, see, this one guy did it by being on SoundCloud." Then who put their stuff up there for free, and meanwhile SoundCloud is making all this money.
Yeah.
And they're paying you a fraction of a cent for every stream, and their idea of the folks that are fighting for the rights for publishers, and if they get like a 2% increase, that rolls out, yay! Now they're only taking 92% of like it is what it is. It is what it is. Like back in the day, like when who needs a day job? I'm gonna pour full-time effort into this. When you're luxury of putting in full-time effort, if people support you, let's say, you get a day job, rehearsal afterward, like, that kind of thing. But nowadays it's like, look, you need 2 jobs on promotion, or you need drug money, or you need a family member or a friend, commercial success on a broad scale. I can still pay my bills with music. My bills are a lot smaller than they were when I was, at the height of, but to keep track of. I like being able to clean my own house. Like I don't have to hire some stranger to come in and do my, and my kids are not starving. I'm not out in the street. They'll make music for money, amongst other things, So that to me is success. Is like, hey, that's success.
I love that.
Yeah.
So does that help you out, like being a known quantity? Having been a successful artist, having been a successful producer, that now, that opens doors and helps make it possible for you to make this your primary source of income.
It's a double-edged sword. On one end, yes, people do remember me from As Yet. However, because they only expect you to do what you did then, even though the time that you haven't heard from me, I've been honing other skills and doing other, I am proud to share with people. And, I've been in the last, 8 shows, and they never announced me Shawn Rivera from As Yet. I'm just Shawn Rivera, and that feels good because they're not asking me to sing my, hey, say, why don't you sing your verse or whatever? That's cool, but like, I like to know them 2 feet and just get up there. Like sometimes I'll actually go and crash, not say anything, just sign up like everybody else, and just get up there and see if I can get there and see if what I have is still good enough to enjoy without the without the mist of success on you, where it's street clothes just singing a song. Yeah. And I love that feeling when I can still get people to throw their shoes at me or something today.
So let me just interject, since you're talking about like what you're known for in the past. I just have a question. So my very first concert I ever went to was Chicago, and it was the year that Hard to Say I'm Sorry came out, and it was my favorite song. And so I'm just curious, what inspired the cover? I love the cover better than the original song. And I got to tell you, Shawn, I'm not just saying this, I don't like cover songs as a general rule, but you guys.
Yeah, me either. But when I heard that was like.
Same here. Well,
So what
here's the
inspired
thing,
that?
right? I always loved that song, a relationship gone wrong,
Yeah.
right around the Christmas holiday, and flown my love interest to California, went back or traveled, like either go see their family or something. So it was just me and her, and then and I found out that she was cheating, and you know, uh, I had a lot of time on my hands, and and I had this little 4-track cassette multi thing and recording it because it was hard for me to say I'm sorry. I wasn't sorry. I sat around a plane back home. It just seemed like the right time. I had time to kill to do the demo, and then I took that cassette to Babyface, and he played it for a bunch of people, and he said we're going to record it. And when we recorded it, it was a cappella, just a cappella, with a kick. Babyface called David Foster, put him on the phone, says, "You got to hear this." And David says, "Oh, you know what? Play the piano." And then he calls Peter Cetera, and Peter Cetera says, "Hey, I want to do a version where I'm singing like 2 versions of the video. There's like 3 versions of the song, but 2 versions of the video.
Wow.
One of them." And the funny thing is, people, the younger generation, they're like, "Who's that old white guy in the box?" I'm like, "He's the guy. That's the guy."
The
But
guy
he
that
was
wrote
awesome.
and
And then
sang the
Peter,
song.
he was so cool to work with that when it came time, he called us to sing "You're the Inspiration" with him, and
Oh, wow.
I got to arrange again. Great, like that was my first professional production. It was hard to say I'm sorry, and it got nominated for a Grammy and went platinum. So it was kind of hard to follow that up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't really release anything major till I did the late great Dr. Maya Angelou, and that was
Love
like a
Maya.
life changer right there. That was a deep experience
Yeah.
with
So
her.
let's drill into that a little bit. What was that? What was that whole experience like? If you could put words to
Well,
it.
I was always a fan of hers, and somehow I was compelled at one point. I was disillusioned with the industry. I was feeling, pretty close to suicidal. Like I'm like, what's the point? It's a waste of time, and I didn't want it anymore. I didn't want to just be famous for something for the sake of getting attention. And I was listening to this poem set called "A Brave and Startling Truth," and when I heard it, it just made me weep. It just hit me. It struck a nerve with me. Some kind of music that will make people feel the connection that I felt with her. And it took 7 years to develop the project. I did not know Dr. Angelou. I just did it on the strength, and like I would take her poetry and sing it. And I had a band that believed in the concept, and everybody just kind of jumped on. Whoever wanted to be on it, I'm like, I did it for free. Then I wound up, it got heard by some investors who said, look, like union scale, because they got to get paid something, or else, do you really own the product? Do you want them to come back? So this company called Smooch Music, they came with the legal team, the accountants, and actually pushed it over the goal line. 7 years after I started it, I'm sitting in Quincy Jones and everybody for Maya Angelou's 80th birthday.
Wow.
And whole village and family. Man, I could go on. I met so many legends. For me, it was never about like trying to sell 1 million records. It was just something to give back, like to carry the torch forward. Like there's obviously other people who might have been a better fit for the concept, but effort from my heart. And so like what's all I don't have? It's just to kind of make an impact of some sort, something for my daughter, and it really impacted her. Also, like, they say if you could reach one person, that, and Oprah actually wound up co-producing the video. There's a video for Harlem Hopscotch in it. It's got Alfonso Ribeiro and America's Best Dance Crew, Nia P. Folks jumped on board for that. And it was a life-changing experience. Check out Cage Bird songs if you haven't already. It's on Amazon and all the platforms floating around there.
Wow.
Definitely going to check that out.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. If you were to give advice to some young person that's looking to break into the music business, and it's funny because, like, I know I have a lot of friends, a lot of relatives that they're trying to get into the music industry at some level. And the thing is that, my family is really blessed. We've had people that have been in the music business, and they'll say to these young people coming up, hey, you're wanting this for all the wrong reasons, right? So let me ask you this: what are the right reasons to want this, and then what kind of advice would you give to someone up and coming that their heart is to be in music, to make music, to impact the world through their music? What kind of advice would you give them?
It's interesting because I'd like to think whether your reasons are quote unquote right, if you do the work and you follow in spite of or because of yourself. Meaning, if you develop your craft, you to align yourself with people who share the vision enough to complete a project, and you pay the right people. Like, it doesn't matter if all you want is to get laid or all you want is money. It's just like, hey, to take care of your family, is it going to really change your jump shot if somebody just wants this? If you got the jump shot and you got the height and you got all the other requirements and you show up, work harder than anybody else, you're going to make it with or without my advice. But what I would, unless you are funded, unless you're having funding outside of, either from your passive income or an inheritance or, whatever the investor situation may be, you have to decide what your idea of success is, because you just want to make great music. Well, then you don't have to be famous to do that. You don't, you shouldn't. If you have 100 people who will show up at every concert, because you can guarantee 100 ticket sales. I mean, that'll get you in the door anywhere. Like, now, a lot of that can be manipulated as far as followers, and you can have thousands or whatever. But if you have like 100 core people who spend $1 on you a day, right? That's what, $36 of income. You can take on a second job and make six figures, or give advice. I'd have to meet the person and see what it is that kind of get into their mind. Just like when somebody says, what artist would you, I need to know your range, your history, your background, your influences, like, before I would even give that person could do. And sometimes, the advice here, and, sometimes it might be the wrong advice because it,
Right.
I would say never give up, but people should.
That's sage advice, because at some point a pun is not a bad move.
Right.
Right. If I can inspire you to walk away now, that's the best advice I can give you. If there's that would bring you joy, it'll probably pay more, and it save yourself a lot of heartache, anguish.
Yeah. We need to hear more of that. I think I love that.
Yeah. One of the coolest things I love.
You need to move on. I love it.
Absolutely. Like one of the coolest things I'd ever heard is like Tom Petty said that if you're not willing to fully invest your mind, your body, and your soul, he said this is not your thing.
Mm.
That if you're not all in, basically he said that the cost of performing at a high level means a total investment on your part. You can't be partial.
Yeah, taking a pay cut relative to anything else you could be doing, pretty in the sense that in order to get good at anything, there's a certain level of education, gifts, but you still need to know the business of administering those gifts. So the advice I would give is, if you are passionate about anything or anyone, know as much about what you love as possible. You will make choices, your priorities. So that is probably the best. Just because something is possible doesn't mean it's probable. Sad truth is that you can be doing everything by the book. You can do everything quote unquote right. It won't happen for you. Just like how folks will say their prayers every night, the house still burned down. Things that are out of our control.
Right.
And that doesn't make you a good or bad person. You may not be doing it, just, perseverance. Like I see how people build, in small increments over time. So patience is, but yeah, you've got to find some way to feed your kids in the meantime, or and don't consider yourself a failure because you may be quote unquote more tense than the next person, and have all these other things going for you, and still not in the numbers. And the thing is, the music industry is not a meritocracy. That your bank account is not a reflection of your morality, or your, it doesn't necessarily correlate. So you have to, rejection and what other people may think of you. Enemies, they say, if you're going to make omelets, you're going to break a few eggs. Mm-hmm. If people don't feel strongly one way, right? Like if you go to a restaurant and how was the food? It was all right. It was edible. It was good. Even if it's good, you won't go back unless it's great. Love that same, like let's say people love the Popeyes chicken sandwich. I'm like, it's dry, but that's just me. Like, that doesn't mean that. Yeah, I'm not taking away your joy. But look, so in other words, if you want to be successful, watch at home. That's my advice.
So we're I don't want to take up too much of your time. We usually run right about an hour, and I've sent the link out in case anybody wants to join in and ask you any questions. But we also go through the comments here, and so Tender Anna Hart says, "Hello, friends," and my sister Sandra Day is in the audience, and I'm gonna tell you something. Sandy, if you're still on, I just want to tell you, I owe you a call. I just been busier than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. I mean, this week has been bad. But Dr. Michael J. Thomas says, "Hey, my brothers." Jeanette Peasley says hello. Ben Irvin, I wish Ben would jump in. Ben is like TGIF. Carl Forehand in the house. Tyrone Jerome Harris is saying, most of the best music is from the 90s and back. And you know something? I'm going to tell you something. You know what? There's some cats that I dig right now. I love Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
I love Lucky Day. I love Harry Styles. And I dig on all these because my kids are in the, they're in the not just hip hop, but they're in new school R&B. So I listen to a lot of what they listen to, but it's like, I'm gonna tell you something, like the whole you and Boys to Men As Yet and Boys to Men, kind of like with this Philly sound that kind of popped off at the same time, and it's like I used the term earlier, lightning in a bottle, right? It was something that was unique. It was special. It resonated. It had an impact. And so I look at artists now, and I'm like trying to find, okay, where is that impact now? One of the things I saw, Lucky Day did a remake of I think Love's Holiday with Earth, Wind and Fire.
Earth, Wind and Fire. Interesting.
And it was I stumbled on it by accident. I'm like, holy fuck, this is amazing, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like if you had to, and I'm gonna put you on the spot here, if you had to pick an artist today, or a group today, that really, like, it makes the hair on your neck stand up. It gives you the emotional flood.
Let's put it like this, right? I like a lot of today's artists, but the only name that came to my mind, I mean, there's plenty of artists who are still relevant today, who are from previous eras. So kind of artists, well, Layla Hathaway, she's still out there touring.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of artists just because, they're not what the kids are listening to. But yeah, of course, I'd love to work with like Lucky Day or LMI or something. I love to work with J. Cole. Geez, you know what, Jacob Collier, but he's got enough ears. It's pretty incredible, and I like he's kind of like what I would have been if I, my room and learn how to play all the instruments instead of getting out in the world. Like if I wasn't visually impaired, I might have been able to sight read a lot better. That being said, there's a lot of that new, but there's also there's these, speaking of Boys to Men, Boys to Men group made of Wanye's kids, and I think, I'm not sure if they're all related, but Wanmor. They're out here. They were just on like one of those American Declaration of the Harmony thing.
Yeah.
But I work with any artist calls for it. Like some people will send me tracks. Like I've done some in Los Angeles called Amalgam X. Now he's kind of a cross between Frank Ocean and he's kind of like a visionary in that vein. He can sing, he can rap, he produces stuff with him. That's really nice and different. I'm sure I'll think of like 20 other artists I would I'd love to work with, but I just think it be something that I feel like I can get in where I fit in, and I will.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What was the young lady's name? She did the Black Panther theme with Kendrick Lamar, SZA.
Oh yeah, she's dope. She
is
dope. Chick that sang on the Sing movie soundtrack with the curly hair sometimes too. I can't believe I forget her name because I see her all the time. Tori. Damn, I was about to call it Tori Spelling. I feel so bad. But it's definitely Tori. She's hot, but she sings and plays, and she's got super chops. Faranza Spalding. I don't know if you heard of her.
Yeah,
she played.
Yeah.
Like I like jazzy and sorts. Like I'd love to work with Hiatus Coyote. I talked about them earlier, and like Moonchild. Like they're just almost like neo soul and jazz, where it kept on going. Underappreciated sounds is that neo soul, and I do like it. It'll be appreciated in hindsight as it comes out. We start to miss the songs that we hated as kids, and that's just a generational thing. Who knows? If there's any artists out there who are interested, happens.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that artists that you hated growing up. my mom used to play records. My mom and my sister used to play records until there were white grooves in the vinyl, right?
Yes.
They play them over and over again until they weren't black anymore. They were gray, right?
Hmm.
And, and so my mom's thing was Al Green.
Mm.
Oh
Al
my
Green.
goodness. Yes,
And she
indeed.
would wear the fuck out of Al Green. And so
Yes.
now it's like I have these moments where I'm like Joseph for some Al Green.
No, right. Oh, it was Tori Kelly. That's who I forgot. Tori Kelly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
so, yeah, I didn't want to diss her accidentally, but yes, Al Green. Oh my goodness, slap no matter what. You know how many weddings and celebration
Right.
of life ceremonies and bar mitzvahs. You know, at least one of his songs. Yeah, Bill
Mhm.
Withers. You know, certain artists' style. You know.
You know what? And you talk about Bill Withers. I got to share a Bill Withers anecdote, right? That there were 4 times in my life when I was like in jazz clubs around the
Mm-hmm.
country because I love jazz and I used to play drums. So you know when they do the take five, when the headline act would take five, you know the amateurs would come up
Uh-huh.
and you know and they would just kind of you know syncopate or whatever. And so I'd get up
Right.
there and keep time or whatever. And there were 4 times that I was in a club like that when Bill Withers would show up and
Mm.
just come on
Nice.
stage and get the guitar, and start strumming out like grandma's hand, you know?
Yeah, man. He was such a great guy. So humble. Talk about advice, right? I met him at the Hollywood Bowl for this premiere of the. I have a friend. You ever see this movie Soul Power? Basically,
Yeah.
there was a concert thrown, the Rumble in the Jungle,
Mhm.
and they put together all of these. Oh wow, James Brown, BB King, Celia Cruz, Bill Withers. All these people were in this movie,
Yeah.
and you know, I
Mavis
got
Staples.
yes.
Yeah.
So when I met Bill Withers and I said, you know, I've been wearing your songs out, brother. He says I got out while the getting was good. He retired early. His kids, he didn't chase the next hit. Like once he just was not
Yep.
into the whole fame thing. To me, that's the way to live. When it's like, you know what, you've already proven that you can, and what you know,
Yep.
the need to not stop is like what drives people to an early grade point of doing all of
Mm.
that. If you can't have any free time to spend, you know, with the people you love, why? So he passed the torch to his daughter. He has a daughter that sings, Corey, and she's dope. She
Yep.
plays piano and sings. She's dope. Shout out to Bill
Yeah, it's like she and
Withers.
her brother, they run his foundation, his charitable foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that was, they were educated to work, for their family business.
Mm.
And I always
Yeah.
thought that was so cool, that you set your kids up to, to not have to chase money.
Yeah. I mean, it could backfire if the value, because yeah, if you ever notice, right, is it one generation will bust their ass, kids don't have to, and
Mhm.
then because the kids don't bust their ass, don't have to, the value of it, and
Yeah.
that's why there's always this crash and burn. Like, oh, you're gonna appreciate it now that you've done. And then it's like, why did I do August? So just,
Yeah.
That's a good point.
it is what it is. I
That's a good point.
mean,
So go ahead, Aaron. I see no, go ahead, man.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna have to check out here pretty quick.
I know
Because
I've got 10% battery
waiting on
too.
me.
I'm riding. This is Friday night, man.
But Shawn, I just want to tell you, man, thank you for sharing this time with us. This has been some really, I love you, man. I mean, I just met you, but I just love how genuine you are. I love how honest you are. Thank you for taking the risk of coming on a program like ours. And I just, I treasure this time. Thank you so much for spending it with me. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah,
I think it's mutual. This is definitely cathartic for me, and I love talking to. I say folks of substance who are thinking outside the box, and you're doing. Continue, and if I can be of any help and support, I'll be sure to post a link wherever this is going to wind up. as it comes back to haunt me. I'll wake up tomorrow like, what?
I do that every Saturday, but
Yeah.
following, so
Yeah, when the booze wears off, you're like, whoa, what did I say that?
No, but really,
Exactly
it
right.
was, to use a religious term, it was sacred to me. It was really special. So thank you.
Yeah. This
Yes,
was
yes,
this
indeed.
was special. And here's the thing. I'm gonna say something really mushy, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it right, because Aaron is like one of my best friends in the world. And do you know that we've never met each other face to face? Our relationship is purely online up to this point.
Hey.
But dude, I feel like I found a long lost brother here, man, and that's the really cool thing.
I'm saying though,
Oh,
the feeling is mutual. If we're ever, if you're and where are you at? Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yep.
Yeah, I'm in Colorado.
Oh, you're in Colorado. That's right. Boulder.
Yeah. And speaking of Colorado, Aaron, I think I'm going to be in Colorado next month. I'll let you know.
Dude, I'll go anywhere in the state.
Yeah, Boulder.
Oh yeah, Boulder's easy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll let you know.
Sweet.
Yes, indeed.
So Shawn, thank you for joining us, man. You got any parting shots before we go?
I just want to say thank you for everyone who's stuck, folks who haven't unfriended me after watching this interview, and of them at all times.
All right, Aaron, how do we usually close it out? Do your thing, man.
Dude, I don't know. It's getting a little corny, but
No, it'll never get corny. It'll never get old. I promise you.
Hey, I just want to say to everybody watching, we love you. Thank you for taking your time to spend with us. It really means a lot to us. We look forward to this every single week. And with that, peace and hair grease.
All right. Love y'all.